Soft piano music. A narrator's calm, steady voice begins over the slow motion of water splashing across a silver laptop. Sometimes the smallest accident can change the course of two lives forever. That night, it started with nothing more than a mop, a bucket, and a man who was just trying to keep his job. Daniel Cooper had learned to live quietly. A single father, mid-30s, still carrying the kind of tiredness that doesn't come from lack of sleep but from too many goodbyes. He used to build machines, real ones, the kind that made factories hum and cities breathe. Now, he pushed a mop through the marble corridors of Hart Industries, a company so large its logo shone above half the skyline. To Daniel, it was just another building he cleaned when everyone else went home. That evening he worked the executive floor, the one with glass walls and silence thick enough to hear your heartbeat. He checked the clock, 11 p.m. Just 2 more rooms and he could go home, maybe catch the last rerun of the cartoon his daughter loved. He was humming softly, thinking about her, Lily, 10 years old, missing her front tooth, the reason he still fought every day. He pushed open the CEO's door. He'd never seen her before, not really. People whispered about Isabella Hart, the youngest tech CEO in the state, ruthless, brilliant, a woman who built empires and burned bridges in the same breath. Her office smelled of polished wood and cold air conditioning. He moved carefully, like always. But the mop caught the edge of the rug, the bucket tipped. And in one instant, his whole world flipped with it. Water spilled, glinting in the office light, splashing across her sleek mahogany desk. A laptop sat open. He lunged to catch the bucket, but it was too late. The laptop hissed, sparks flashing under the keyboard. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then the sound of high heels behind him. "Stop," she said. Her voice was calm but sharp enough to cut through panic. Daniel froze, his hands still dripping. I am so sorry." Isabella Hart walked around her desk, her expression unreadable. She didn't shout. She didn't curse. That almost made it worse. Her eyes moved to the laptop. The screen flickered, half alive, showing a photo. A little girl in a paper crown, laughing so brightly it seemed out of place in that cold office. Beneath the photo was a label, Project Hope. Daniel's breath caught. That image, he knew it. But before he could say anything, the screen went black. Isabella's gaze shifted to him again. Her face was all business now. "Leave your badge on the desk." "Ma'am, please, it was an accident, I can fix." "You've done enough," she interrupted. Her tone didn't rise, but her words landed like a hammer. "I can't risk data loss or security breaches. You're dismissed. Effective immediately." Daniel wanted to argue, but something inside him gave way. He just nodded, picked up the mop, and whispered, "Yes, ma'am." As he left the building, the city rain outside felt like punishment. Cut to interior, a small apartment. The narrator continues. By the time he got home, it was past midnight. The apartment lights glowed dimly, Lily had fallen asleep on the couch waiting for him. Cartoon credits rolled on the old TV. He knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. She stirred, half awake. "Daddy? Did you bring the chocolate milk?" He smiled through the ache. "Always." He kissed her head, whispered good night, and sat on the edge of the couch staring into the dark. Losing a job wasn't new. He'd lost plenty, each one another dent in the armor he used to have when life still felt like something he could fix. He looked down at his hands, calloused, cracked. Once, they'd built machines. Now they just cleaned up after other people's success. Soft guitar music fades in, a memory montage plays. Years ago, Daniel had designed something extraordinary. A low-cost water purification system using recycled industrial parts, his way to bring clean water to rural towns. He'd called it Project Hope after his wife's name, Hope Cooper. She'd passed away before he could finish the prototype. After she was gone, the project died too. And then the layoffs came, bills piled up, and life slowly folded him into silence. He never thought anyone would see that name again. And yet, it had just flashed on the CEO's screen before dying out. How did she have it? Why was it on her laptop? Scene change, the next morning, inside Hart Industries boardroom. Isabella speaks to her assistant. Has IT recovered any files from the damage? She asked, her tone brisk. Most of them, yes. The local drive was fried, but cloud backup shows your last open folder something called Project Hope. She hesitated. Send it to me. When the file opened, her breath caught. The design diagrams weren't hers. They were signed Daniel Cooper, Senior Engineer, Horizon Tech Labs. She scrolled down, reading the proposal. Each page was a blueprint for Compassion, a simple, brilliant system to bring safe water to underprivileged communities. She remembered seeing this once. Back when she was head of acquisitions at Horizon Tech. She'd been the one who stamped rejected on it, labeling it not commercially scalable. Now that same man was mopping her floors. And she had just fired him. Voiceover returns, slow and reflective. For the first time in years, Isabella Hart couldn't focus on her empire. Every meeting felt hollow. Every email another echo in the empty halls of success. She kept seeing the photo, the smiling girl with the paper crown. Maybe it wasn't a random screensaver. Maybe it was the reminder of something she'd forgotten, humanity. That night, she sat alone in her office long after everyone left. Rain lashed against the windows, the city lights blurred into streaks of silver and gold. She opened Daniel's proposal again, reading every line. The equations. The efficiency models. The personal note at the end. This project isn't about profit. It's about people, about my daughter growing up in a world where clean water isn't a privilege. Her eyes lingered on that sentence. Something inside her shifted. Scene, the next morning, Daniel's apartment. Knock on the door. He wiped his hands on a towel and opened it. Standing there, completely out of place among peeling paint and flickering hallway lights, was Isabella Hart. No entourage, no bodyguards, just her. Ms. Hart, he said, startled. Mr. Cooper, she replied, her voice softer than before. May I come in? He blinked, confused, then nodded. Sure. Inside, the apartment was modest but warm. Lily sat at the kitchen table coloring a picture of a castle. Is that your daughter? Isabella asked quietly. Yeah, he said. Lily. The girl looked up and waved shyly. Hi. Hi, sweetheart, Isabella said, smiling faintly. For a moment, silence filled the room, an awkward stillness between two worlds that rarely touched. I came to apologize, Isabella said finally. Daniel frowned. For firing me? She nodded. And for something else. I found your file. Project Hope. It was yours, wasn't it? His eyes narrowed. How do you know about that? It was on the laptop you damaged, she admitted. I read it. It's brilliant. He let out a quiet laugh, half bitterness, half disbelief. Yeah, well, the world didn't think so. I was part of that world, she said. And I was wrong. He studied her face, trying to see if she meant it. Her eyes were sincere, tired. The kind of tired that comes from too many years of winning for the wrong reasons. I want to help you rebuild it, she said. Properly this time. With funding, a team, and your name on it. He shook his head. You don't have to do that out of guilt. I'm not, she replied. I'm doing it because it matters. Because I need to believe my company can stand for something real again. Daniel looked down, unsure. I don't even know where to start anymore. Then let me help you remember, she said. Music swells, hopeful piano returning. And that was the moment the world shifted again. Not with a splash of water this time, but with a spark, small, quiet, but real. Two people from opposite sides of success decided to rebuild something that should never have been broken. For her, it was redemption. For him, it was rebirth. For both it was the beginning of Project Hope. Camera pans out on them shaking hands in the dim light of the apartment, Lily watching curiously from behind her coloring book. That night, rain hit the glass walls of the 38th floor like 1,000 tiny accusations. The office was dark except for the faint glow from the CEO's computer, her backup laptop casting blue light across her face. Claire Hartman had been replaying the incident all day, the splash of water, the shock in the janitor's eyes, the little girl's name he had whispered when security escorted him out. She told herself she'd already moved on. But her heart hadn't. Something about him, the quiet panic, the sadness behind his apology, wouldn't let her rest. So she opened the ruined laptop herself. The IT team had written it off as destroyed, but curiosity made her connect it to a recovery port. The screen flickered, buzzed, and to her surprise, files began to appear. A folder popped up on the desktop, Lily's school projects. Her hand hesitated over the mouse. She clicked. Photos filled the screen, drawings scanned by hand, poems written by a child's uneven fingers. My Daddy the Hero, one file read. Claire opened it. My dad cleans big buildings so people can have nice places to work. He tells me we all shine in different ways. One day I'll make something shiny for him too. Claire froze. Her throat tightened. She scrolled further, a picture of the janitor Michael with a broom in one hand and a girl laughing in his arms. The caption, Us Against the World. A few lines below was another folder, Dream App. Inside, code files. Dozens of them. A prototype interface. Claire's pulse quickened. She was a CEO of a tech firm, after all. She recognized design when she saw it. This wasn't random code. It was a fully built concept, an educational platform that turned kids' chores and goals into game rewards. It was brilliant. Michael wasn't just a janitor. He was a father chasing a dream in silence. Claire leaned back, her breath shaking. She whispered, My God, he built this on a janitor's salary. The next morning, she called HR. Find me the janitor who was fired yesterday, Michael Rivera. I want to see him. The HR manager blinked through the call. Ma'am, we already processed termination. Undo it, she said. And tell him to come in. I want to talk. Michael didn't believe it at first. He thought it was a cruel joke when they called. His daughter Lily had been crying all morning. Her father had promised they'd buy her birthday cake this week, but now he had no job. When he arrived at the office lobby, every step felt heavier than the last. He expected humiliation. Claire was waiting in her glass office, dressed sharply but with softer eyes this time. She motioned for him to sit. I owe you an apology, she began. Michael's hands twisted nervously. Ma'am, I didn't mean. I know, she interrupted gently. I saw what was on your laptop. He froze. I shouldn't have looked, she continued, but I did. And I need you to know it was extraordinary. That app, the idea, the design, it's something even our developers haven't tried. Michael's face went blank with disbelief. You looked through my files. I did. And I'm sorry, she said. But it showed me something important. You're not just a janitor. You're an inventor, a father who's trying to build something meaningful. He swallowed hard. That's just something I was working on at night. For Lily. So she could learn while I worked. Claire smiled softly. That's exactly why it's powerful. She offered him a job. Not as a janitor but as a junior developer under the mentorship program. It wasn't charity, it was recognition. But Michael hesitated. Ma'am. I don't think I belong here. I barely finished community college. I clean floors. Claire leaned forward. You built something people twice your position couldn't. Talent belongs everywhere, it just doesn't always wear a suit. Something in her voice, firm yet kind, made him believe her. He took the offer. Weeks passed. Michael worked late nights again, but this time, at a computer instead of a mop bucket. He learned fast. The Dream app prototype grew stronger. Claire found herself staying after hours too, quietly watching him code with focus and tenderness, the photo of his daughter taped to his monitor. They began to talk. About life, struggle, dreams deferred. Claire revealed how her father's death had pushed her to chase success but also hardened her against vulnerability. Michael shared how he'd lost his wife to illness and was terrified of failing his daughter. Somewhere between those long nights, respect turned into something warmer, unspoken but felt. One evening, as they tested the final build, the office lights dimmed from the automatic timer. Only the glow of the monitor lit their faces. Claire said softly, "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were careless." Michael smiled faintly. "And I thought you were cold." They laughed quietly. The tension softened. "But now," she said, "I see someone who refuses to give up. That's rare." Michael looked at her. "You gave me a reason not to." Their eyes met. A silence thick with something more than gratitude filled the room. Then he looked away, remembering his reality: a single dad with bills, she a CEO with a world on her shoulders. Claire sensed the distance and didn't push. She simply said, "Let's make your dream real, Michael." For Lily. 3 months later, the app launched under the company's innovation wing with Michael listed as lead creator. Investors loved it. Parents downloaded it nationwide. Children everywhere earned badges for learning and kindness, the core idea Michael had built for his daughter. And at the launch event, while cameras flashed and applause filled the hall, Lily ran to the stage and hugged her dad. Claire smiled from the front row, eyes glistening. Michael's voice trembled as he said into the mic, "This isn't just an app. It's proof that where you start doesn't decide where you end." Applause thundered. Later, when the crowd dispersed and the lights dimmed, Claire approached him quietly. "Michael," she said, "you once poured water on my laptop." He chuckled awkwardly. "Don't remind me." She grinned. "Best accident of my career." He looked at her, truly looked. "Mine too." A beat of silence passed. They didn't need to say more. The story wasn't about a CEO and a janitor anymore, it was about two broken souls who helped each other see their worth again. And somewhere deep down, both knew, this was only the beginning. Autumn arrived almost unnoticed, except for the gold-brown leaves skimming the glass of the company courtyard. The building that once smelled of cleaning solution now carried the faint aroma of roasted coffee and new beginnings. Michael still wore simple shirts and rolled sleeves, but his ID badge now read lead developer. Lily came by after school sometimes, wandering the hallways in awe. Everyone knew her now, the girl behind a dream that became an app used by thousands. Employees stopped to wave, hand her stickers, and she'd beam proudly, "My dad made it." Claire watched them from her office window more often than she admitted. Every success the company had since the app's launch somehow felt brighter, lighter. And yet, when she saw Michael laugh with his daughter, something in her chest tugged, a mix of admiration and something softer she didn't dare name. One chilly Friday, she found herself outside after sunset, the city alive with noise below. She leaned on the balcony rail, lost in the rhythm of the wind. Footsteps approached behind her. "Michael." He stood there with a thermos in hand. "Hot chocolate." "Lily said you looked like someone who needed it more than coffee." Claire smiled, surprised. "Smart kid." She gets that from her mom, he said quietly, gaze dropping to the skyline. Or maybe she gets it from you now. A silence lingered between them, full of things unsaid. I never thanked you properly, he said finally. For giving me a chance. You didn't have to. You earned it, Michael, she replied. You just needed someone to see it. He studied her, the light from the office windows reflecting in his eyes. Most people see a janitor before they see a man. I used to, she admitted. But not anymore. A week later, Claire was invited to speak at a National Innovation Summit. Cameras, reporters, spotlights, it was her arena. Yet halfway through her speech about leadership and inclusion, she paused. She glanced at Michael, seated quietly in the second row with Lily. And she said, the greatest idea our company ever built didn't start in a boardroom. It started with a man mopping floors, trying to make life better for his daughter. The audience stilled. Claire continued, voice steady. Leadership isn't about titles, it's about the courage to dream when no one's looking. Michael Rivera reminded me of that. And he reminded me that compassion is the real innovation. Applause filled the hall, long and thunderous. Michael tried to smile but emotion hit too hard, his eyes glistened. Lily clapped until her small hands hurt. After the speech, reporters crowded around, but Claire only wanted to find him. She walked straight through the cameras, straight toward the man who once apologized with shaking hands over spilled water. You stole the show, he said softly. No, she replied. You did. Back at the office that evening, the halls were quiet. The launch banners were being taken down, the cameras packed away. Michael lingered in the lobby, uncertain if he should go home or thank her again. Claire stepped out of the elevator, coat draped over her arm. Long day, he asked. Long year, she smiled. But worth every second. He hesitated, then spoke. You know, when I poured that water on your laptop, I thought it was the worst moment of my life. Claire chuckled softly. Turns out, it was the start of something better for both of us. They stood there, facing each other in the echo of the empty lobby. The distance that once separated them, titles, classes, worlds, seemed to vanish. Claire, he began, but stopped himself. Never mind. No, say it. He exhaled. It's just, for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm cleaning up after life. I feel like I'm part of it again. She stepped closer, her voice gentle. You are, Michael. You always were. The world just needed to catch up. The elevator dinged behind them, but neither moved. For a heartbeat, the city outside disappeared, and it was just them, the janitor who dreamed, the CEO who listened, two people who'd rescued each other in ways they hadn't expected. As winter crept in, their paths continued to cross. Coffee breaks became shared ideas, late nights became laughter. They didn't label it. They didn't need to. There was warmth, trust, and the quiet rhythm of something genuine blooming between long hours and silent moments. One evening, Michael brought Lily to the office Christmas gathering. The little girl carried a handmade card for Claire, "Thank you for seeing my daddy." Claire knelt, eyes moist. "You're very welcome, sweetheart." Then Lily whispered, "He smiles more because of you." Claire blinked, surprised. Michael turned red, trying not to hear. The laughter around them melted into soft music. Fairy lights shimmered through the glass walls. For the first time, Claire felt she belonged somewhere, not because she led it, but because she was part of it. Snow drifted lazily past the high-rise windows, covering the city in soft white silence. It was the last day before the holidays, and the office was nearly empty. Claire had stayed behind, reviewing quarterly reports she wasn't really reading. She glanced at her reflection in the glass. The woman staring back wasn't the same CEO who had once walked past people without seeing them. She had changed. Because of one man who'd spilled water on her laptop. A knock pulled her out of thought. Michael stood in the doorway, a wrapped box in his hands. "Don't worry," he said with a shy smile, "this one's waterproof." She laughed, motioning him in. "You really don't have to bring me anything." "I know. But I wanted to." He handed her the small package. Inside was a framed photo, not of a boardroom, not of a product launch, but of the three of them, Michael, Lily, and Claire, standing in front of the office building during the app's celebration day. Someone had captured it when they weren't posing, Claire's arm slightly around Lily's shoulders, Michael laughing mid-sentence. Her voice softened. "This is beautiful." Lily said, "It should go on your desk," he said. "To remind you what kindness builds." Claire blinked back emotion. "You two have a way of sneaking past my walls." "That's what we do best," he said quietly. They talked long after the lights dimmed about dreams, parenting, how success feels different when it's shared. For the first time, Claire spoke about her own loneliness, about the pressure that had made her forget what connection felt like. Michael listened, patient and kind. He told her about Lily's new wish. She wants to start a kids' dream fund to help other kids make things like she did. "She says you should be the boss of it." Claire smiled. "I think Lily's already the boss of all of us." He chuckled. "You're not wrong." The laughter faded into quiet understanding. Then Michael said, almost in a whisper, "You changed our lives, Claire." Her eyes lifted to his. "No, Michael, you changed mine." For a heartbeat, the world outside disappeared. No titles, no hierarchies, just two souls who had walked through storms to find light in each other. He didn't move closer. He didn't have to. The air between them said everything words couldn't. Weeks later, the new year arrived. The Dream app continued to soar, and the Kids Dream Fund became the company's proudest initiative, helping thousands of children from underprivileged backgrounds learn and create. At the press event, Claire stood at the podium, flanked by her board of directors. But when the cameras started rolling, she stepped aside and gestured to Michael. "Some stories deserve to be told by the people who lived them," she said. Michael froze for a moment, then took the stage. He wasn't used to microphones or flashbulbs. His voice shook at first, but then steadied as he looked toward the crowd and then at Claire, standing off to the side, smiling that quiet smile that had become his anchor. "I used to clean this building," he said. "Every night, I'd see lights on in that top office and wonder what it would feel like to belong up there. Turns out, I didn't need to change who I was to belong. I just needed someone to see me. To believe that my worth wasn't measured by what I wore or what I earned, but by what I tried to build." He paused, his voice thickening. "Sometimes life spills water on your plans. Sometimes it ruins what you thought you needed. But maybe that's how it washes the path to what you're meant for." The crowd stood and clapped. Claire's eyes glistened. After the ceremony, as the crowd faded, she met him in the hallway lined with portraits of past CEOs. "You made me proud," she said. He smiled. "You made me brave." They walked out together into the cool evening, the city lights glimmering off the wet pavement. Lily was waiting by the car, waving a small sign that said, "Go Team Dream." Claire laughed and took Lily's hand. "Mind if I join the team for dinner?" Michael grinned. "We'd be honored, boss." "Stop calling me that," she teased. "All right, Claire." There was something different in the way he said her name, gentle, certain, with a promise that didn't need words. Later that night, as they walked through the park, Lily ran ahead chasing snowflakes. Claire and Michael followed slowly. "She's happy," Claire said softly. "She is," he nodded. "I think we all are." Claire looked at him. "You know, if someone had told me a year ago that a janitor would teach me what real leadership looks like." He laughed. "You wouldn't have believed them." No, she smiled. But now I'd tell them they were right. A quiet fell between them, comfortable, familiar. Then Claire added, almost to herself, funny how one accident can change everything. Michael's eyes met hers, warm and steady. Maybe it wasn't an accident. The wind carried their laughter down the snowy path, and as the camera would pull back if this were a film you'd see three silhouettes walking side by side, a single dad, a CEO, and a little girl whose dreams had built a bridge between two worlds. A story that began with a mistake ended with a miracle. And over the fading city lights, Michael's voice could be heard, a soft, reflective narration for the audience watching till the final second. We all spill a little water sometimes. But maybe the mess isn't the end, maybe it's just where something beautiful begins.